You see it's out here on the ground. This right here is my 45. That was the first round. These are exploding hollow point rounds from, yeah, and you have to pay me back for these too, because these are about $1 a piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh yeah, and after that comment you made about your mom told me to be sure I put one in there for her, so that one's from her.
That, you don't need to be told, was an irate American father whose daughter had put a disrespectful post on Facebook. His name's Tommy Jordan. He's from Albemarle, North Carolina, as you might have guessed, and as you probably noticed, he even made the kid pay for the bullets after he shot up her computer for ill manners. I am joined now by Vivian Diller. She's a psychologist and author. Surprising thing about that clip isn't that a lot of people viewed it, it's that a lot of people really sympathized with the dad. You find that one over the top?
Well, you know, first thing is, I think all parents essentially want the same thing. They want their kids to be successful, happy, fulfilled. But really the route to that varies so much from culture to culture, from one generation to another, even within families. So when you ask about this particular parent, I say he probably believes in what we call sort of extreme parenting, that a parent can have excessive control over a child's destiny. And in this case, this parent thinks excessive kind of discipline will be helpful to achieve that goal.
Yeah, I mean, because you do see, I mean, sometimes you just see a news story where a parent's gone nuts, which to me isn't a social trend, it's just someone who didn't cope. But there is a wide range of advice that people get about parenting, from the very permissive, always reinforce, never spank, to, at the other end, I wouldn't put that guy, I'd put the tiger mom. Who's always pushing the kid,
yes,
never giving them a hug. I want you on the flashcards at the age of 4 months kind of person.
Yes, I think on those extreme levels, we're talking about taking what parenting specialists believe is good for children and bringing it to excessive measures. Now, the upside of this is we have parents who really care about their kids and their outcome, and I think this is coming from an age where many families feel there's an enormous anxiety about what's going to happen to their children. On the downside, I think it gives parents a skewed idea that they actually do have control over the outcome of their children's lives. And there have been many studies on twins living apart or adopted siblings not being brought up together that shows that, in fact, how your child turns out will have a lot more to do with their genetics than all that excessive stuff we see, you know, on the Time cover that about attachment parenting. The result of that is, yes, there are many parents who are doing a lot of attaching early in a child's life, but there really isn't any much scientific evidence that that much attachment is in the service of a child. In fact, I think it makes a lot of parents feel badly that they're not doing enough.
Well, and I think it's true a lot of parents aren't doing enough. I read the scariest statistic I think I've read about Britain in my life, and I've read some odd ones, is that something like 40% of British families do not have a dinner table. And that means parents who are not engaged in the lives of their children at all, and surely that's bad.
Right, so that's the other extreme. If you're talking about extreme neglect, abandonment, abuse, or extreme pathology, maybe the other extreme of extreme attachment and availability is better. But why not think about raising a child, providing them a good enough, Winnicott once talked about this. This is a psychologist who talked about good enough parenting or good enough mothering, where we say, give a child that sense of security, but then give them the freedom to learn how to earn that success in life on their own. See, too many parents actually believe they can create that success rather than enable the child to achieve it on their own. And we're not talking about, those extremes of where parents are constantly hovering over children or completely neglecting it. I'm talking about finding that middle ground where you provide, but you also give them the freedom to make their own mistakes.
Yeah, it's interesting you talked about what parenting specialists think or believe, because I would have been inclined to think offhand that the average parenting specialist was in fact a parent. But one thing I know from talking to friends who have a lot of children, they're aware that every child comes into the world with their own personality. And from hearing this and thinking about the matter, I've decided on my own behalf that parenting is a bit like gardening, that you can look after a plant well or you can look after it badly. You can neglect it, you can nourish it, but you can't choose what kind of plant it is. And you have to understand that your child comes into the world a person, not a lump of clay that you're going to sculpt.
I mean, that's a really nice analogy. I see it in families that I treat where there'll be one child that will be pushed and encouraged to, say, you know, be the best baseball player ever, you know, takes travel ball lessons and private lessons, and the kid at some point rebels completely and, you know, starts overeating, you know, hating the whole sport. While in the same family, where there may be a daughter who's given the violin lessons and the opportunities to take all the, you know, special classes she can, and she loves it. So, you know, it's hard to say a blanket approach about parenting, and rather, I'd say generally paying attention to what a child's needs are rather than what the parent's needs are is probably a good statement.
Yeah, you don't want to lead your life through your kid. You get one life and it's yours, it's not. You can't annex theirs. But it is, I had one
very hard thing to...
Go ahead.
It's a very hard thing to do these days, and this is why I think we're seeing a lot of extreme parenting. You know, when you're watching a third of college graduates come home and unable to find a job, I think there is an enormous pressure on young parents to try to afford these young children opportunities that may enable them to distinguish themselves from that group. So, you know, you've got to be sympathetic to those parents who are watching a culture that is really frightening in bringing up a child.
Yeah, although, look, the world has always been frightening. Genghis Khan wasn't a relaxing influence on Europe in his day.
That's why I say, from culture to culture, you're right. Generation to generation, there's always new theories.
There's always some darn thing going on, but boy, if your child is posting abusively on Facebook about you with a laptop you bought for them, I don't think they should be too amazed if you take the thing away, even if you don't use hollow point rounds. Vivian Diller, psychologist and author, thanks for joining us to talk about extreme parenting.
Thank you.